Hi, it's author Jean Oram here with the Cupcake Cottage, and we are reading chapter 9 today. And as you can see, we've got fish here as well. Hey pups. All right, let's dive in and see where Daisy-Mae and Maverick are today in chapter 9. Maverick couldn't believe how well the coffee date with Daisy-Mae had gone. Daisy-Mae was in love with him. He felt like singing, clicking his heels, whistling, and throwing money from the sky. She told him to go buy a ring. He was so glad he hadn't waited until he was retired to try his luck in the love department again. He had found the right woman for him, and she'd been there the whole time. He shouldn't have postponed things for so long. Oh, fish wants love. They'd missed so much time that they could have spent together. Sure, part of the engagement was for a spectacle, but if their crazy idea worked, not only would he soon be married to Daisy-Mae Ray, he might also swing some nice deals that would allow him to sit pretty during retirement. Then he and Daisy-Mae could have all the time in the world, and the entire globe as their playground as they made up for lost time. "What's got you so cheery?" Lewis asked Maverick as he left the ice after a particularly grueling practice. "Nothing." "It's a woman. Rihanna contacted you?" Maverick stopped cold. "No. Why would she?" "What else could have you smiling like that?" Maverick just grinned at Lewis, clapped him on the back, and said, "Merry Christmas." "Christmas isn't for another week," Lewis said, falling into step behind him. "If you're thinking of cutting out early for the holidays, think again. We're on a winning streak, and I'll tan your hide if you make even one error." "Sure thing," Maverick said with a grin that clearly baffled him. Lewis could ride him as hard as he wanted from now until New Year's. He didn't care. He had a date to the gala with his future fiancée tonight. All he needed to do was keep the reporters and the social media influencers at bay for at least 2 weeks so she didn't decide an engagement wasn't necessary. He shook his head at himself and began checking off his gear at his locker. He no longer needed to hold on to those old fears. Daisy-Mae was in it for the real thing. She wanted the ring because she loved him, and there was no better feeling in the world. "I told Maverick to get me a ring." Daisy-Mae paced her office the next day while Violet listened. "Wait, you're getting engaged?" Violet froze, her expression confused, her arms out like she was ready to dance if given the word. "If things don't get crazy in the media by New Year, he is proposing publicly." Power just came and went. Violet's hands went to her mouth, her eyes wide. "And are you going to say yes?" "I don't know." "What?" "It felt so right sitting there in the diner yesterday." Violet sat. "But it doesn't feel right now." "I mean, yes?" Daisy-Mae eased into the chair behind her desk. "Don't ask me." Violet shook her head, hands held out as though she might have to ward off a clingy friend. "This is something only you and Maverick can answer. Y'all are talking about getting married." Daisy-Mae sighed, a happy feeling warming her from the inside out. Married. Wedding dresses, invitations, happily ever after, and living in the same house with a man that made her feel happy and content. "You love him," Violet stated. "It's all so fast." Violet lifted a shoulder as if to say, "So?" "Violet, help me!" "Okay, is it real?" Violet asked. "I mean, do you have a wedding date chosen? That sort of thing, or is this part of the fake thing?" "He said we'd take our relationship, the real one, at my pace. But I told him to buy a ring." Daisy-Mae covered her mouth and started laughing, rocking back in her chair. When she put it like that, she couldn't even imagine what had come over her to say such a thing. "And that felt right," Violet confirmed. "Yes." Daisy-Mae sighed and melted over the top of her desk, resting her head on her arms. It had all felt right, but now she had to take action, had to consider the possible painful repercussions that might occur if things didn't work out or went south. She wanted to be excited, but she was scared. "He said we could have a long engagement." "That's good. That'll help lessen the freak-out factor, right?" "But what if we break up?" "What if you don't, Mrs. Blades?" Daisy-Mae popped up from her slouch, feeling as though someone had teased her skin with a blowtorch. Mrs. Blades. Her. The Mrs. Maverick's Mrs. The idea made her feel faint. We haven't even outright said I love you or spent the night together, and we're getting engaged? Neither of you would get engaged for publicity, Violet said after a moment. Right? Her friend knew her, knew how to sort through what was real and what might be just her inner freakouts. You both have some serious boundaries. We do? Maverick hardly dates. You date, but never let yourself get all starry-eyed. Right now, you are totally starry-eyed. But what if it's just a crush, or I'm infatuated that an NHL star chose me? Girl, you've known him as a star since the day he stepped on the ice. And you've been dating him for how long now? 2 months? Your eyes are only getting starrier. They'd be flat by now if he'd only been a crush. You'd be complaining about him, interrupting your work all the time with those needy texts and flowers and coffee. He's not needy. See? Violet crossed her arms, looking smug. Hate to break it to you, but you two are the real deal. This big fat fake thing was just so you nutters could get over your hang-ups and get to the lovin' part of things. But Leo still needs, we have our own plan, and Landon is fine. While you've been busy making goo-goo eyes at Maverick, we've all been busy too. Doing what? Violet just smiled. Just gonna take a little tea break. Daisy-Mae's in love. Alright, here's the next scene. Diving in. Maverick knew what a beautiful woman Daisy-Mae was, but it wasn't until she was on his arm at the gala and was receiving lingering second glances from other men that he truly felt it. If only they knew how genuinely special she was, they would fight him for her. He planted a kiss on her temple, feeling like the luckiest guy on the planet. I love you, he whispered. Her cheeks turned pink, and she looked up at him so full of happiness he wanted to get down on one knee and propose to her right then and there. I love you too, she said, nuzzling closer. He closed his eyes for a second, locking in the moment. The feeling of having his love returned. We should go home, he said. Reporters were swarming the ballroom, but tonight he wanted to escape for entirely different reasons. He wanted Daisy-Mae all to himself and to hear her say those 3 sweet words over and over again. Why? I'm greedy and selfish and want you all to myself. She laughed, that warm smile lighting up his world. Maybe we should be good and go look at the auction items, she suggested. I don't plan on buying anything, do you? No, but I feel like we're supposed to. And we shall. He reminded himself that there would be many more dates and moments in the future. They walked along the tables of items. Everything from autographed hockey sticks to exotic weekend getaways to artwork. Daisy-Mae studied everything. But he noticed she paused the longest in front of a hand-knit blanket made with about 8 different colors. It would have taken a long time to create, and the current bid was over $400. It's beautiful, she said, moving on. The next item was a signed jersey. His. I have one of these. She gave him a private smile, and he understood why princes and kings gave up kingdoms for the women they loved. You can have as many as you like. Although, come to think of it, mine isn't signed. That can be arranged. He picked up one of the auction's pens and studied her gown. It was elegant, fitted, and looked expensive. She'd probably get mad if he tried to sign it. She laughed, realizing what he was thinking of doing. No way! Your jersey is at home? Why didn't you wear it tonight? The dragon's colors are almost black tie, but not quite. Too much gold and green in with the black, unfortunately. She took in his tuxedo, not for the first time that he'd noticed. He had a feeling she liked what she saw. Maybe we should go home and sign it before we forget. I'll get the valet to bring the car around. He took her elbow, kidding, but aware that he'd ditch the event if she even hinted at a yes. She giggled, You're such a flirt. Only with you. He kissed her temple again. Good. Should we strut for the photographers? You want photos tonight? She asked, looking at him curiously. She squared her body to his, adjusting his bow tie. He was pretty sure it didn't need attention, but he liked that she was using it as an excuse to get close to him. May as well. We went all to the effort of getting dressed up. Her smile fell and a look of concern crossed her face. What? He followed her gaze over his shoulder to see Miranda, the team's owner, hurrying from the ballroom, looking upset. He knew Daisy-Mae and Miranda were becoming friends. So he released Daisy-Mae from his loose embrace, giving her a light nudge. Go. She started to look up at him, but was drawn back to Miranda's exit. Go. She's more important than my need to drag you back to my lair. I'll be over here having a club soda with the guys. She shot him a smile that hit him in the solar plexus, making him feel like he'd done the right thing by putting her friend before his caveman needs. She doused him with a hot kiss that left him watching after her even after she disappeared from sight. There was no doubt about it. Maverick Blades had lost his heart, wholly and completely, to Daisy-Mae Ray, and he hoped nobody planned to do a single thing about it. Right? Isn't that the best? That kind of love? Seriously, I have the best job in the world. I get to make stuff like this up. Make stuff up for a living, make people fall in love and feel good. Hopefully make readers laugh along the way. All right, let's dive back in. Maverick crossed the porch, the weather-worn boards creaking their hellos as a breeze tickled the hairs on his arms. What on earth are you doing, Daisy-Mae? Nothing. She gave him a guilty look and tried to stand in front of the 6-foot-tall rooster she was unsuccessfully attempting to stick into the ground. It tipped over, causing her to whirl and catch it in the pre-dawn light. Is this my Christmas gift, or is it a Christmas prank? He trundled down the steps, giving her a kiss while keeping one hand on the colorful metal rooster so it didn't fall over and brain them both. He recognized the hideous beast from one of the antique shops they'd been through during their desk hunting afternoon. Merry Christmas, he whispered. Merry Christmas. She stood back as he drove the sculpture's spike into the ground, securing it in his yard. It was supposed to be a surprise. I heard you drive up. If you hate it, plant it in someone else's yard. Yours? She laughed and squeezed his arm. She was wearing a Santa hat and her cheeks were rosy from the few minutes she'd spent out in the frosty air. I actually don't mind it, he said, taking a step back to assess it. It looks better in the dark. Mav, it's fun! You're right, it is. The rooster was ridiculous, but he knew he'd never part with it. See, I told you it had potential, and now the dirt in your yard has some personality. He laughed. It was true. His yard could use some serious TLC. But, like the house, it would come in time. They went inside and Maverick paused in the doorway, inhaling. The house smelled like a home. His beach house and apartment both had contained that crammed with newness smell. Practically everything had been met with an upgrade. The doors had barely needed a tap to close, and the appliances called for nothing more than a gentle caress to turn them on. Not here. Everything had its own quirk. The dishwasher had to be bullied to keep its door closed, and even then it often popped open mid-cycle, releasing steam and that weird dishwasher smell. This house, with its chips and dents, scratches and worn areas, held a personal history rich with memories, routines, dreams, and losses. The house was anything but impersonal. It was home, and he loved that he got to share a Christmas morning in it with Daisy-Mae. Hopefully it was the first of many. Come in, I made you coffee. He guided her into the kitchen and poured a cup of joe. I got you something too. He led her into the living room where the tree was twinkling. The sun was rising, streaking his living room with orange and pink light. They sat on the floor by the tree, and he pulled out the gift he'd wrapped. It had a giant bow, and the corners were pretty good considering the item inside was so soft. He probably should have put it in a box. Watching him, Daisy-Mae pulled the corner apart, shredding the paper with a flourish. She looked down and gasped. Excuse me. The multicolor blanket she'd fallen in love with at the gala sat in her lap. Watching him, Daisy-Mae pulled the corner apart, shredding... Oh, sorry. She's already opened it. Oh, I can't pet you, Fishy. You're distracting. Yeah, everybody's gonna be like, what's going on in the story? Any pups? Okay, where were we? Oh, sorry. You won this at the auction? When? She hugged the blanket, squeezing it against her cheek. You must have had to bid so high. It had taken some help from his friends to ensure that his bid was the highest at the auction's close, and that Daisy-Mae didn't catch on to what he was up to. Thank you. She rolled up onto her knees, leaning forward to kiss him. There's more. He pulled out a notebook-sized box, professionally wrapped. Beautiful. She smoothed her hands over the paper. Her eyes were dancing as she carefully opened this one. Inside was a chunky aquamarine necklace from her friend Jenny's shop in town, Blue Tumbleweed. Jenny said you'd been eyeing this up. Daisy-Mae's hands dropped, and she tipped her head to the side. You asked my friends what I wanted? Of course he did. Want to try it on? She was wearing a button-up shirt with a long skirt with her Santa hat, and he scooched around so he was behind her to clasp the heavy necklace. She ran a hand over it after letting her hair back down. It's gold. It looks good on you. He feared it would be too bold or big, but it looked just right on her. It felt like something was missing, though. He moved closer, giving her a light kiss, then brushed her shirt to the side to spy on her yellow rose tattoo above her left breast. He checked the other side in case he'd gotten confused. I had it removed, she said, meeting his puzzled look. Why? She shrugged. No, seriously, why? She'd had that since she was 17 and had won a pageant after singing the Yellow Rose of Texas. It didn't fit my image any longer. It felt kind of trashy. I liked it. Most men did. That and the tight shirts. Then I hope having it removed wasn't too painful or expensive. She gave him a kiss that grew deeper until they were making out like teenagers, sprawled on the floor by the tree, wrapped in each other's arms, the scent of pine needles filling the air. When was the last time you were with someone? She asked when they came up for air, stroking his cheek with a finger. Intimately? He was suddenly very aware of every soft curve of hers that was pressed against his body. She nodded. He exhaled, thinking, it had been a long, long time, embarrassingly so. He wasn't sure he wanted to admit the truth to Daisy-Mae. A year? She asked, her tone tentative. He didn't answer. 2? 3? Her tone was becoming more incredulous. 5? She was laughing now, half sitting up. He tried to act casual as he rolled onto his back, hands clasped behind his head. Doesn't matter. Janie, about 4 years ago, had been his last. Daisy-Mae straightened, obviously giving that some thought. No, she said decisively. I guess I was expecting that with so many women throwing themselves at you that you'd be a little busier in that department. He watched her puzzle out his dry spell. A lot of men on the team took advantage of the popularity, but one-night stands and quickie relationships had never felt right to him. Why? She asked softly, coming back to the floor to rest against him, her fists stacked on his chest as a prop for her chin. I don't give my trust freely. It has to be earned. And to me, he pushed a strand of hair off her cheek. Intimacy is an act of trust, and it's difficult to build that level of trust during one date. Right, the one-date wonder, she said thoughtfully. I'm not great on dates, okay? He sighed, realizing he sounded defensive. I'm just figuring you out. Sleeping with someone isn't an act I take lightly. There are consequences, and I don't ever want to find myself attached to a woman I don't like very much while we try to do something important like raise a human being together. She nodded. Her expression was thoughtful again. I like that. A lot. I'm not a prude. I know. Making love means something to me. There are a lot of reasons to love you, Mav, and every day I just keep on finding more. That's the end of chapter 9. I'll be back again next week with chapter 10. Be sure to subscribe, hit the little button down below so that YouTube can send you a notification when I have more content. And leave a comment. Let me know how you're enjoying the story and if there's anything else you would enjoy seeing or hearing on my channel. Thanks again for listening. I hope you've been enjoying the Cupcake Cottage. Bye-bye.